The sky over Gaza was not like the skies Layla read about in stories. It didn't sing with birds in the morning, nor did it glow gently at dusk. Instead, it throbbed with the sounds of sirens and roared with the angry rumble of aircraft. It had forgotten how to be calm. But so had Layla. She was 12, though her eyes had seen far more than her years. They weren't the wide, curious eyes of a child discovering the world. They were the steady, heavy eyes of someone who had learned to stay quiet when the walls shook, to look away when someone screamed, and to pray when there was nothing else to do. Her father, Yosef, sat outside their modest home, a two-room flat with crumbling plaster, broken windows taped with plastic, and a small courtyard where nothing grew anymore. He once owned a humble mechanic shop, fixing motorbikes and cars with laughter in his voice and grease on his palms. But that was before the raids turned his garage into rubble and his tools into ash. Now, he spent most of his day watching the horizon, scanning the clouds as though looking for a sign from Allah, or perhaps simply waiting for the next drone to hum overhead. Inside, his wife Amina prepared whatever was left for lunch, which wasn't much. A few boiled lentils, a piece of flatbread too dry to chew, and a single tomato she'd bartered for at the market with the last of their sugar. Their youngest, Sami, just 6, played on the floor with bottle caps, pretending they were cars. He made little engine noises as he moved them around a dirt patch, and when a cap flipped over, he let out a dramatic gasp. Boom. He'd giggle, then pause, then look up at his mother. "Did I scare you, Mama?" he asked. Amina forced a smile, her voice tender but tired. Terrified. Sami didn't know those sounds in the sky weren't games. That the real booms stole people and homes. That his laughter, precious as it was also a shield against the horrors waiting outside the door. That night, the electricity went out again. It had been unpredictable for months, but now it was a luxury they barely remembered. The family gathered around a candle, flickering in a chipped tea glass. Layla sat close to her father, her head resting against his shoulder. "Baba," she whispered, "why do they hate us?" Yosef looked down at her. In the soft orange glow, she looked almost like the little girl she used to be, the one who once chased butterflies in the alley and counted stars from the rooftop. "They don't hate you, Habibti. They just don't know you." Layla frowned. "But they destroy our homes. They send bombs." He sighed. How could he explain hatred born out of fear, history twisted into weapons, politics turned into pain? "Sometimes," he began carefully, "when people forget Allah, they forget mercy. They see land, not hearts. But we must not forget. We remember mercy even when no one shows it to us." Amina reached for the holy Qur'an from the corner shelf and placed it between them. "Recite with me," she said softly. And so they did. That night, as the wind howled outside and distant gunfire cracked in the distance, the family sat in dim light, their voices lifting verses into the heavens. A plea, a prayer, a reminder to Allah that they were still here, still breathing, still believing. The next morning brought more than hunger. It brought silence. An uneasy, heavy silence. Layla stepped outside and looked up. No planes. No smoke. Just clouds. It was rare for the air to be still. She wandered into the courtyard, clutching her mother's scarf. It still smelled of cinnamon and jasmine soap, scents that now belonged to memory more than reality. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "Why Allah, Are you still listening? Suddenly, a voice called out from the gate. It was Bilal, their neighbor, a man in his 60s who used to be a teacher before the schools were shelled. Yusef, he shouted. Come, quickly. Yusef rushed out, still tying his frayed scarf around his neck. Aid trucks. From the south. They are letting them through the checkpoint, for now. Without another word, Yusef grabbed his cart and ran. Layla followed closely behind, despite her father's protests. No, Baba. I want to come. Let me help. The roads were packed with people. Everyone had heard the same rumor. Humanitarian trucks, white, with big blue letters, had been seen moving through Rafah. There were whispers of flour, water, maybe even medicine. Yusef and Layla waited in the queue for hours under the sun, dust swirling around them. Some people argued. Others fainted. Many simply sat and prayed, hoping they'd get something before supplies ran out. By the time they reached the front, the boxes were nearly gone. A soldier waved them forward, barely glancing at their ID cards. The volunteer handed them a small package, 2 bags of rice, a bottle of cooking oil, and a sack of lentils. Yusef's eyes filled with tears. This will feed us for a week, he whispered, as if unsure whether to believe it. Layla didn't say anything, but she squeezed his hand. On the way home, they passed a collapsed building. Layla saw a girl sitting near the rubble, holding what looked like a school bag. Baba, she tugged on his sleeve. Look. Yusef stopped. The girl couldn't have been older than 5. Her cheeks were streaked with soot, her feet bare. They approached her gently. Where is your family? Yusef asked. The girl said nothing. She just looked at them with vacant eyes. Layla knelt down. My name is Layla. What's yours? Still silence. Then a whisper, Amira. They sat with her until a man, likely her uncle, came running, tears streaming down his face. He picked her up and thanked Yusef and Layla again and again. I thought she was gone, he sobbed. That night, Layla couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, listening to the quiet thump of her mother's hands kneading dough in the kitchen. Despite everything, Amina was making bread for the neighbors. She said, when Allah gives, we share, even if it's little. Layla walked over and asked softly, Mama, do you think he hears us? Amina paused, wiping flour on her dress. Every time, Habibti, even when we don't hear him back. As the days passed, life remained hard, but small things began to change. Yusef reopened part of his garage, what was left of it. He didn't have tools, but he had hands and heart. He began fixing broken carts, patching metal pots, helping people carry water barrels. Word spread. Soon, people were coming to him not just for repairs, but for advice, prayer, and comfort. Mr. Yusef, a boy once asked, why are you always smiling? He laughed. Because frowning uses too many muscles. But Layla knew the real reason, because smiling gave people hope. She began writing in a notebook stories of the people around her. Of Amira, who now sang softly to herself when she played. Of her mother, who gave away half their flour to a widow down the road. Of Sami, who started drawing flowers again. And of her father, who still looked up at the sky every day, not in fear, but in faith. One evening, as Layla sat on the roof with her notebook, clouds gathered above. The first raindrop landed on her page. She blinked. then laughed. Rain hadn't come for months. She rushed downstairs, shouting, "Mama! Baba! It's raining!" Sami ran out barefoot, spinning in circles. Amina stepped out, face to the sky, letting the water cleanse her worn skin. Yosef knelt and raised his hands. "Ya Allah! You never forget." And neither did they. For in Gaza, when the sky weeps, so do its people. But they also pray. And when prayers rise from broken hearts, they don't vanish, they echo through time, carried by the very one who placed faith in their chests. The bombs might fall, the buildings might crumble, but the spirit, the iman, of a people who trust in Allah, that no bullet can break. If this story touched your heart, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. More unforgettable stories await you every day.